Today is Friday, September 25th, 2020, and this is Kathleen Butler, and welcome to the SRT Practitioners Clearing session. It's also been called the SRT Practitioners Meeting. So there's a wide range of topics that we cover. Some of it is usually we are interviewing another teacher or or a consultant, someone who's been doing SRT to kind of introduce them and their work styles. And today, though, you just got me. You just have me because I wasn't able to get anyone available for today. So we found a topic, and I talked to the board about it, and they thought it was a great topic to have. And our topic today is really, in a nutshell, about doing a full clearing and why is it important to do a full clearing. And I'm realizing that there's a lot of misunderstandings about what is a full clearing. Why do we call it a full clearing instead of something else? And how long is it supposed to take? And I'm amazed at some of the answers I get from people about how long their sessions are taking. So these are some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. We are recording this video and we'll make it available on social media and through YouTube. And I'm going to have everyone as you are muted right now, but no, you can unmute yourself when you have a question, and I will figure out, even if I have to go down each one of you, I'll unmute everybody. All right. Because you need to have a chance to talk. Okay. A complete clearing. So I'm going to see about, can you guys, let me see. I'm going to, it looks like I have to ask you to be unmuted. Thank you for your patience while I'm figuring that out. I work with a different format, like a different platform, and I can mute and unmute people back and forth on that one. And this one is a little more complex in how they do it. So let me see. Oh, well, we're not going to do that. So feel free, I just want to say again, feel free to unmute yourself as we go through. So what is a complete clearing? Whether that complete clearing is 5 minutes or whether it's 2 hours, it can be a complete clearing because there's 3 elements. I like to say there's 4 elements to a full clearing. And the first thing is the prep to work. And Robert would talk about this a lot. Your work is only as good as your prep to work. And sometimes people like to change the prep to work, and that's not necessarily a hindrance or a problem unless they're leaving out things that are important. So your prep to work over chart 1. Well, why do you do it over chart 1? Because when you do it over chart 1, your intention is to include all of those charts in your prep to work. So holding your pendulum over chart 1 does have a significance to it. So the prep to work is your first stage. Well, what's the second part of a full clearing? It's section B. Is there a program to clear? Is there something to clear? Is there anything else we need to know? I got that question from one of the other teachers that has been teaching for a very long time. And I found it very helpful because it's basically asking, well, what else does Spirit want to tell us that we haven't thought to ask? What else do we need to know? But always clear programs first. That's the whole deal. Well, what's the third part? Well, you go until you get, there's no more programs. There's nothing else to clear. And then you go into the mop-up, right? A lot of times your high self will automatically be showing you that now is a good time for a mop-up. So you do the mop-up. By the way, the prep to work includes over an infinite number of items in the prep to work, and so does the mop-up. The mop-up includes an infinite amount of information. Some of it's physical, like the brain restructuring, physical and spiritual alignment. Some of it's organs and glands, again, physical, but also spiritual alignment. So there are items that you can't put in your prep to work because they can't be done until programs are cleared. That's why they're in the mop-up. So if you want to add something to your prep to work, be sure to ask thyself if you can do that, because it might be better if you add it to the mop-up, because that particular item may not come up for people unless they're at a certain level of consciousness, which occurs later on after some clearing work. So mop up, or guess what? When you're clearing those programs, you might find that Spirit's clearing a whole bunch of stuff without research. So that's also really excellent that that would be happening. We do more with less. So for those of you learning SRT in the last few years, it's a much more condensed version than it used to be. It's bigger, we do more, but we do it with less work, which is so exciting to me. And I think that's where some of the misunderstandings about what a complete session is comes from, is some of the history. People that might go, oh, I took it back in 1993 and this is what a full clearing was. Well, in 1993, we couldn't clear everything in one session, and now we can. So, and we've been able to do that for a while. So just keep that in mind, that a full clearing is those 3 steps. Your prep to work, clearing programs. Is there anything to clear? Of course, we start with asking, is there a program to clear? And then the mop up. When I do a private session, this is where, usually after the mop up, not always, but usually after the mop up, is when I ask my client about their personal questions. And this is why I wait. Because what if that self-punishment program that I was clearing, that came up right at the beginning of the session, was the root cause of everything on their list? If I looked at their list first, I might be doing a 3-hour session, which doesn't make sense, by the way, when I could have done it in an hour if I'd done it by allowing Spirit to show me what's the primary issue first. So this is one reason checking for programs and then doing questions later can be more helpful than going to questions first. And I'm talking about a first-time session or maybe a second-time session. If, like you and me, we've been doing SRT on ourselves for a while, so a complete session, prep, is there a program to clear, mop up, might take 5 minutes, because maybe we only have a couple of things to clear, maybe there's no research necessary, and then we get to that point of, well, is there a reason why I'm still having negative reactions to dairy? Is there a reason why I'm still having challenges organizing my thoughts for my work, or to work on my book, or organizing my closet? You know, these are some simple day-to-day things, but SRT is a beautiful tool to use for that day-to-day stuff that might get in the way of you living your best potential for that day. So a full clearing, prep, the body, clearing programs and stuff, and the mop up. And then I say, what's the 4th part? The Q&A with the client. Well, what else? So this is where I say to them, is there anything that I didn't cover that's on your list that you'd like to address, or anything you want to go back and revisit and review? One reason, and the reason I do it this way, and I'll share an example that happened just 2 days ago, is when I got to Q&A at the end, my client's like, well, you covered everything on my list. I'm like, yeah, Spirit knows what's causing a problem. So I cleared everything that was on their list without knowing what their list was. Now, the excellent reason that we have them do a list is to make sure that we got everything. So then we look at the list and we say, well, what's left on the list that didn't come up in the session or that didn't get cleared? So a complete clearing, by my definition, is the prep to work, clearing programs and other things, doing the mop-up, and asking, well, is there anything else on your list that we didn't talk about or that you want to go back and review? At the beginning of a session, I think it is helpful, especially when it's a follow-up session, for people to say, what's their intention? I know some practitioners really want to know, well, what's my client's intention? And I think that's a great question to ask them. But I also want to say, don't let that distract you from doing the SRT clearing. One thing that Robert and Marianne asked me once that I found really helpful was, who's in charge of my business? Is it me or is it the client? If what that means is, well, we were talking about scheduling and what days of work and stuff like that, but it's also about your session. When you do a session, are you neutral in such a way that you are doing what Spirit is directing you to do, or are you doing what you think the client wants to hear? What do I mean by that? Well, what I'm getting to is sometimes people want to know things, and Spirit says that was cleared without research. And they're like, but I want you to research it. Well, Spirit says we don't have to. Well, I want you to. So their ego is getting into the story. And sometimes we get into appeasement because we're like, well, but keep in mind, you're being an SRT practitioner doesn't mean that you're doing a psychic reading. It doesn't mean that you're an emotional counselor. Actually, please don't put yourself out like that. It doesn't mean anything other than you've been trained to do SRT. And SRT is not using a pendulum. Using a pendulum is a tool that we use with SRT. SRT is not channeling. Channeling is a skill and a tool that we use when we do SRT. So what is SRT? I asked this of Robert, and he said SRT is the process. It's the questions. It's the process. So you've been trained to do the process. So follow the procedure. I find a lot of people don't follow the procedure, which is one reason I chose this as a topic today. And that procedure is, once you do the prep to work and doing the clearing, seeing if there's programs to clear, what does that mean with past life research? Well, with past life research, that means, of course, you're identifying, well, on what chart will I find the program? Identify the program. And if it's on one of the physical realm charts, you would ask the question, you know, how many lifetimes do I need to research to clear this? Or you might say, can it be cleared without research? No. Like chart 4, chart 2, chart 5 on negative motivations, chart 6A, chart 6B, chart 8A. These are examples of physical realm charts. If you need to research a past life because it can't be cleared without research, then you're going to identify your cast. Who was the client? That would mean you if you're working on yourself in that past life or other life. Was there anyone else involved? Was there hurt or harm? And you'll go through those steps. Keep in mind the energies that you need to find for each person. By the way, it'll be for each person in your story, not just the person with the program. If there's 2 people in your story, each one, if you get sent, it's in the advanced procedure, question 15. If it says you don't have enough information to clear the past life in the program, then you need to say, well, is it this or is it this? What do I need? And one of the very first things is you might need to get the energies. And the way it reads, it says like for a person, but it will be for everyone in the story. You'll need to get their energies for the best results of that clearing. So those energies are only found on 6A. You don't go to upper charts. You don't go to others. It'll be 6A. So what I'm finding is people are having sessions that take 3 hours, 4 hours. And that's not normal. So I wanted to share with you some of the advice Robert gave me. He said that if my session took more than 2 hours, even after I'd only taken the basic class, he wasn't even talking about advanced work. If it took more than 2 hours, then there were blocks and interferences. So you want to be sure to check for that. So if I still get people telling me they had a 4-hour session with somebody, and I'm like, oh my gosh, well, I'm not sure of how accurate or complete it was, because that's a sure sign there was interference. So a complete session, even after the basic class, wouldn't take more than 2 hours. However, I will say I know some people are very talkative. Maybe you're visiting. You have to kind of keep tabs on that visiting, the work. I like to check how long. If someone's never had a session before, I automatically schedule them for an hour and a half if they've never had a session before. But I am actually kind of quick. I've been doing it for a long time, so I go through it pretty quickly. So I know it's not going to take me 2 hours. But the point I want to make is this is an awareness. Red flag, if your sessions are taking over 2 hours or somebody's are, check their source, check blocks and interferences. And this is about doing a complete clearing. So let's take a moment and get some questions. Please unmute yourself, as it looks like. Okay, I'm allowing everyone to unmute themselves, but I can go through and unmute you if I need to. Vanessa, you had a question.
Yes, Kathleen, I went to the SRT website and I just bought a full cleaning from you. And Robert told you a long time ago, when you have to prep to work, you have to prep everybody inside the house. Is that right? Even if you have a pet?
No, thank you for bringing that up. So let me explain that more deeply. Robert said that when he did his prep to work, he asked Spirit to include anyone that was in the house so that the entire environment was prepped to work. Whether that meant the cleaning lady or the guard, and it does not include pets, by the way, but you could always add that. You can ask Spirit, can I add my pet to my prep to work? Can I add my dog Vanilla to my prep to work? Yes, I can. Okay. Can I add my son to my prep to work? Yes. So that means when I prep to work, which I was doing before I started the call, but I'm going to do again because I'm adding my dog. Yeah, I'm just prepping over chart 1. That does not mean you're doing a whole session for that person. So let's look a little bit at the elements of a prep to work. What you're really doing is saying, hey, if someone has discarnates or openings and they're in my house, or they brought in some energies that are challenging, then if I prep them to work, High Self's going to take care of that. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone have a question about what we've talked about so far?
Yes, I do.
I see your note, Elizabeth. I'll get to it in a moment. Someone else had Linda. Yeah.
Hi. When you talk about finding the energies for each person in the past life, do you have to assign the energies? So my energy in the past life was 1, 2, 3. The first character was 8, 9, 10. Or can you just say all the energies, discordant energies for this past life include, and just list them all and not assign them to a person?
It's best to assign them to a person, and I want to do an example. So if I'm researching a past life, and this is a real past life, and in this past life other dimension, I was an angel. I'm asking what office, was I serving in an office? Yes. Who was I? I was a guardian angel. Well, if you get that you were serving in an office, you have to find out who were you serving. So who was I serving? I was serving a husband. Was there any hurt or harm? No. Remember, if there's no hurt or harm, then you always have to get the energies for each person. If there is hurt or harm, of course you might need to get the energies as well. So I go to 6A because there's no hurt or harm, and I have 2 people, and I need to get energies. So I start with the client, which in this case is me. And so I say, okay, what's the first energy for the angel? Not so much me, because it's the carryover, right? I'm not, the guardian angel is the one that has the energy, and that's bleeding over into my experience now as who I am. And I'm glad this is coming up because I get nervous about doing these presentations. Okay, so then I ask, what's the first energy for the guardian angel? It's low self-esteem. Is there another energy for the guardian angel? I get no. What's the item for the husband? Failure. Is there another energy for the husband? No. Is that enough information to clear the past life in the program? I got yes. So when there's no hurt or harm, the questions are less, because it's just, what are the energies for each person? Is that enough to clear the past life in the program? If I had received no, then I would have asked about soul relationships or ages or the other items that are on question 15 in your advanced SRT procedure. Maybe I have to research another past life before I have enough information. But yes, you correlate that energy. That's how Robert would do it. He'd say, what's this person's energy? Okay, now what's the energy for this person? That is very clarifying and helpful, rather than just saying a blob of energy and not knowing whose is what.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You're questioning about the angel and what office is it serving. I'm not familiar with that question. Is that a higher level type of questioning, or
no, it's taught in the basic class. So that'll
what
be
office?
Yes. If you get okay, so if you get angel, I don't have time to go through all of that, but one of the items is, if you get angel, you have to, you want, or cherub or seraph, are they serving in an office? If they are serving in an office, which one is it? It's either high self, guardian angel, or guide. Those are your 3 choices on chart 4. If they're serving in an office, and that means they're someone's guide, they're someone's high self. In this case, I was someone's guardian angel. So that meant I had to find out, who was I serving? So if you're in a spiritual office, you're serving somebody. I mean, angel isn't necessarily a spiritual office. You may not be serving in an office. You might just be angel and you're not working with anyone else. That's fine. It's just you then. But if you're serving in an office, those 3 choices are there. Then you get, you might need to get energies, but again, you might find hurt or harm, stuff like that. These are elements that, Linda, we can talk later about. I have a recording about how to use chart 4 that might help you on that.
Yeah, just that specific thing didn't come up in the class, so
right.
I was unaware. Okay.
That's okay. And even if someone takes a class from me and I've talked about it, your brain gets full, right? So we don't always remember things. So just keep in mind, those are helpful things. So keeping the energies to 6A, making sure your hours of the session are under 2 hours. I would say make sure it's under 1.5 hours, because a lot of the teachers have noticed things are just moving quicker. It's just quicker. Spirits are doing more, and we're asking a lot of questions. The Spirit's doing a lot of work, and there's just this clearing just takes not as long as it used to. Robert's intention was always to clear everything in the first session, not, oh, sit down and let's clear your issue with your mom. No, he would sit down and clear everything. Now, if you want to sit down and say, hey, let's just look at that issue with your mom, and the person's never had a session, that's a choice, but let them know you're not doing a complete session. Let people know when you do SRT and when you're not. Let them know when you're doing a complete session and when you're not. Some people define a complete session as you did a brain restructuring with the worksheet, and you did the inner child research. However, those can automatically be included if no research is necessary for that particular client. Does that make sense? Okay. Elizabeth, and people can come back and ask me that. Elizabeth, you asked about neighboring apartments. Put a shield around your house. If people's energy living next to you is causing an issue, put a shield around your house. That should be part of your prep to work, that there's a shield up so that, like, if there's any energy over on my neighbor's property, it's not going to bleed over into my office because I have a shield up. It's like a big bubble. You guys know about that, putting shields up around your house and work? Okay, thank you. All right. So anyone else want to unmute themselves and ask questions so far about a complete session of what we've discussed so far?
I would like to say something.
Yes.
It's not so much a question as I found, like you, I prefer to not hear the list because that can take up so much time. People, like, they're re-energizing things. And what I like to do is I like to have them rate the energy they hold on it on a scale of 1 to 10. And I tell them, and if it's more than a 10, put it on. Put it on. And then at the end of the session, I ask them to check their list and tell me which one still holds energy and what's the highest number. Let's go to that one first, generally, or whichever one jumps out at your face when you look at the list. And I've found that this works really, really good for me, and I'm really excited to hear you say that you don't want to hear the list either.
Well, I didn't say that though, so I'm a little confused by your comment. I didn't say I didn't want to hear a list. I'm not sure what list you're talking about. Are you talking about energies on 6A?
No, when you first get a client, you don't want to
I
discuss
don't want
the
to hear
list.
their list. I see what you're saying. Okay, thanks for clarifying. I wouldn't say I don't want to hear it. I tell them that I'll let them know when it's a better time to discuss it. But be sure that I think what you've done is, and then just ask Spirit to prioritize them is a great idea. And a lot of people do a variation on that. It's just, again, be sure a session needs to be a place where the client feels safe, that they can share with you, but also make sure that you're in charge of the session in this way. You're creating that space of trust for them to be able to be part of that session. Now, you're not in charge of their healing by any means. You're facilitating the healing. So you're a facilitator of healing, but be sure that as you go through the information and look at their list, that there's no judgment and we're always a neutral channel in alignment with Spirit, honoring the space where the client is, even if that space means we'll never work with them again. But we can honor that. We can judge that and say, hey, not judge it, excuse me, that we're honoring where they're at. And thanks for sharing the way that you work through the list, Beth. Thanks. Is there anyone else? Yes, Linda.
Just to go back to the issue of the shield. So you're putting a triple shield around you and then a separate shield around your house or property?
Of course. Yes. So,
okay, well, not of course, because I was only taught one triple shield.
I'm sorry about that. I just meant every person, when they're born, they have a shield of protection. You come in with it. It's part of who you are. Now, why would your shield of protection fall down? Because you have programs like self-punishment or something that might pull it down. Your high self is in charge of maintaining that shield. So that is always, when you do a prep to work, you're making sure that your shield is up and nothing's happened to it. And you're making sure that your client also has that bubble of love, as some people like to call it, around them, because you want to be sure that that channeling that you're doing between you and your client is good and not interrupted with blocks and interferences, because those can happen anyway, because past lives can have energies that block. A program can have a lot of energy on it that might block, and you have to clear that. Sometimes we have to do spiritual kicks. But there's also shields that you can put up around your house, around any property. And Robert taught me to put what's called scrubber shields on the doors or even on my phone. So when I worked at a CPA office, I would put scrubber shields up on the phones. and didn't think anything of it other than I thought, well, I hope it helps, right? And the day after I left, I quit to do SRT. I've been doing SRT ever since. So when I left, it was like a day later, the office manager called me and said, I don't know what you were doing, but can you tell me what you were doing? Because people are calling, they're angry, they're mean, they're rude. I don't know what you were doing, but we didn't have any of that when you were here. So I told her, oh, I was putting scrubber shields on the phones. I was putting scrubber shields on the doors, putting a shield up around the building. You can get creative with it because you're just really setting an intention with spirit uh, about your space. It's all about intention, right? Setting that intention, being clear, neutral channel. That goes back to doing a complete session. When you're a clear, neutral channel, I think it's easier because you don't have an agenda, but use your logic so you can tell when things aren't feeling right or going right. So you can tell when there's blocks and interferences. And a complete session can take 5 minutes or it can take longer. My question to you guys is what puts you, how long do you think, like if someone says, I want to do a session, do you think that that's going to take a long time? Oh, do you want me to unmute you? Everyone's still muted. Okay, I'm going to ask you guys to unmute because we're asking questions. You should find a mute button down at the bottom or a microphone or something, and you can go on that. Okay. So full clearing. Don't chop it up into bits and pieces and make your client do 10 sessions when you could have done it in 1 or 2. And if that client comes to you and says, well, I can only pay for 15 minutes, you can always work something out with them, but let them know that you won't be able to do a complete clearing perhaps. Maybe they will be one of those people that doesn't have a lot of research. Any questions you want to ask me about? And even the questions you've asked before, it's okay. I'm happy to answer any question you might have.
I have a question.
Yeah, Linda?
Can you say a little bit more about the intention behind the scrubber shields? Because I've never heard of that before, so I just want to know what's...
Yeah, the intention of the scrubber shield is, if it's at a door, is that when people come into your house, it scrubs them down. So if they have discarnates, separates, and this doesn't happen as much as it used to, or discordant energy of some kind, it scrubs it. They come in and they get scrubbed down. Their stuff stays outside. They can pick it up if they want, but I just ask spirit to clear it, take it away. All right. And it's just also a way to keep your house space clear. People coming home from school or work or whatever, it can help that way. On the phone, the intention is to, if someone's angry or upset, where I used, when I worked at the CPA firm, people would get notices from the IRS. So the idea of the scrubber shield was they wouldn't take their anger out on me. They would just be able to express themselves. We would understand they were angry and upset, but it wouldn't be abusive. Some people get very upset and lash out, not necessarily meaning to harm people. Does that help?
Yeah, I just...
It's not a term that you hear a lot anymore, but he used the term scrubber shields for a while anyway. Any other questions about doing a complete session and how to make sure it is complete?
Hi, Kathleen.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Sanjeev. I have a question.
Sure.
So, you were saying that Robert mentioned that we could add the people in the house and the space into our prep work.
Yes, he would do that. You can. You don't have to, though. You don't have to do it.
But if we do, we are just prepping everyone's higher selves to work. Is that what we're doing?
Well, you're clearing them of any blocks and interferences, and yes, let's check. Yeah, they're saying you're getting their high selves cleared, their guardian angels cleared, if necessary. Maybe they don't need clearing. And you're clearing blocks and interferences so that your home space is better. I know that's kind of better, but more harmonious. And I don't assume that people are going to need clearing. It's just that you can add to your prep to work. Hey, Spirit, when you prep me to work, anyone that's in the house right now, add them to my prep to work. And it doesn't add a lot of work because you're not doing a session. You're just clearing blocks and interferences, basically, for anyone that's in the house. And that will include their spiritual committees because it is the prep to work kind of, process. Does that help?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I just want to express that it's easy. Keep it simple. Robert loved the KISS method. Keep it simple, Spirit. And so if he added anyone to his prep to work, like if his wife was home or whatever it was, that it didn't mean it was going to lengthen things. It just meant more people were benefiting from his prep to work than just himself, which actually I think automatically happens a lot of times and we don't realize it. You can clear a program for someone and you might be clearing that program for 500 people or more just because they're ready to receive the healing. So they're ready to accept that. Yeah, it's the beauty of this work is it does a lot of behind the scenes clearing that you may be unaware of. Any other questions? I feel like I've really bored you, so. Yes, Linda.
Don't mean to be a questionaholic. Sometimes what I found just using my intuition is that the energy is not on 6A, but it's actually a blocked expression on 6B.
I can see why that might come up. However, when you do the SRT procedure, the energies are only on 6A. However, what you may have been asking is you found there were blocks and interferences, and the block was on 6B. Or are you talking about collecting energies?
Yeah, and collecting energies in a past life. So the past life might have, X, Y, and Z and blocked faith.
Okay, so that doesn't mean that your information's wrong, but I'm just going to ask, were you working on yourself, or I'm going to say other people? You're working on other people?
I was working on myself.
Okay, so when it went to 6B, what was the source? Always check if something's just out of normal, what's the source? Conscious mind, physical body. So your conscious mind, physical body, we're using those every day. And your physical body, conscious mind had a block to a positive expression, and it was keeping you from using 6A. So I'm not saying 6B was wrong, but that was a block to clear so you could get the more information on 6A. So if you get sent to 6B, ask if there's a block to getting the energy on 6A. That might be what they're trying to tell you, because the block to faith makes sense. You could have a block to finding the information or having faith that you can clear it because you're working on yourself.
The way it came up was I was asking what energies are there. I got them from 6A and it's like kept feeling that there was something else.
Okay, so then you went that direction. Yeah, okay.
Flipped over, I'm like, there's also blocked this.
Yeah, okay.
A blocked positive expression is not the same as a discordant energy, but it can still happen and still make.
Yeah, of course it can.
Craziness.
A block to a positive expression isn't going to be your carryover energies, but it can that you had a block to a positive expression. But what you didn't realize is you started asking different questions in your to spirit and they led you to another chart, and that's perfectly fine because you changed your questions. Someone
Okay.
else have, oh, one thing I wanted to say about that. Let's see.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Sometimes people say, well, don't you have to program in positive energies? Nah, trust spirit to do that. I trust spirit to do that. So sometimes we do more because we're not turning it over to spirit. We're using our conscious mind instead of saying, hey, we'll turn it over to spirit. Let spirit show me if I need to find energies to program in. That may have been something from also old school. Doesn't happen, you know, it's not necessary to a clearing unless it comes up to clear the blocks to the positive. Other questions before we move on? Oh, I never did my meditation. I'll do it at the end. Okay. Okay. Well, so to recap, a full clearing isn't going to take you more than 2 hours, pretty much ever, unless you have decided to have a long talk with your client, you know, a lot of discussion. And that's not the clearing work, though. That's discussion. It's going to have a prep to work. It's going to have, is there anything to clear? Is there any programs to clear kind of questions? That may include inner child research. It may be included without research. Then you do your mop-up, which may include the brain restructuring automatically, or it may mean to do it by the form, and you'll need to find that out as you go through your mop-up. And then that is your complete session. And then any questions your client may have that didn't get covered in the clearing work, because spirit knows this person and they know what's going on. So I trust spirit will find things. And be sure that when you clear the programs, you're getting the roots of the tree. If you ask a lot of individual questions, you might only be getting the leaves on the tree. And Robert regretted sometimes only getting the leaves on the tree, so he focused more and more over time with that past life research, which gave better results. All right, and then if you're going to just do a demo, like I used to do demos when I started out, and maybe a 10-minute demo for somebody, let them know it's not a complete clearing. You let them know that a complete clearing would be longer. Advertise that a complete clearing might only take 30 minutes, but it might take longer. So let them know that you didn't ask if there's any other programs, you just focused on one thing. And then that keeps you more, I think, more in the ethics with the work about what is SRT and what's a session and what's just checking something. Any other questions before we go to a meditation and some other things? You're welcome. I find doing demos, it helps people explore the idea of SRT. I would go to chiropractor's office, yoga studios, wherever people with like-minded massage therapists, and do a demo of SRT for them. And it's usually just a 15-20 minute demo so they could see how it worked, because it was long enough for them to see that the information made sense to them, about what was going on for them.
Hi, I'm from Argentina.
Yeah.
So I want to know if you use, I don't know how you say, frases de liberación. When you finish the clearing, I don't know in English. Caitlin Cook did the...
Okay, so the mop-up with the brain restructuring? No?
Kathleen, she asking for liberation statements. You know,
Liberation.
Yeah, I heard you say Catherine's name. Catherine does that. That is not that's not an SRT session per se, but releasing statements is what I use a lot with clients, is the releasing statements from the basic class. I release all belief, perception, judgment. I give them we talk about releasing statements. But if you want to do her type of statements, that's perfectly fine. You can do meditations. With the spiritual restructuring, we use more meditation and maybe some more affirmations. But yeah, I do a lot of affirmations and things with clients, but it's not necessarily considered part of the session, but I think it's a helpful thing to do. Yeah.
I know in my experience working, when I begin to use the liberation statement, the time of the session gets shorter. So
when so let's say someone comes for their first time session, and let's say it's an hour and 15 minutes, and then they come back for a second session, that's going to be less time. Every time they come back, it's going to be less, because you're going to find less things to clear. So the releasing statements, of course, help them as well. But the clearing also will automatically get shorter over time. So the fact that you have had classes, I would never say that it would take an hour to work on someone who's had a basic class or an advanced class. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe that, but it's going to be less because there's less things for you to work on. But as we clear our programs, what Catherine is helping us with there with her releasing statements is to say, let's work on your mental and emotional belief system. Because Robert would tell you, your beliefs will block you more than your programs. So finding ways to help people with their beliefs is wonderful. What I do is I'll ask, like if I'm working on myself, I might say, do I have any beliefs that are limiting me? Okay, do I have any perceptions that are limiting me? Do I have any judgments that are limiting? I got yes on judgments. So I'm like, okay. So they're taking me to chart 19, how to change my life. They like to tell me to do that. Okay, a willingness to change. Okay. Yeah. So, and I know what they're talking about because this morning I was thinking about doing something and I had a judgment on doing that, and they're saying get over it. Okay, so you can check that, and then having her liberation statements. Carla Marie also works with a method that has a lot of statements that people enjoy using, and she did one of these meetings as well. So her recording is also available on the SRA YouTube. Thank you for sharing, Alejandra.
thank you.
So I'm going to do a meditation as our closing. I had it as our beginning, but I got so excited about talking to you that I skipped it. So go ahead and feel comfortable wherever you're sitting. And place your feet on the floor if you can. And close your eyes. And take a deep breath in. And release out. And let's take another breath in. And release out. And move your attention to your shoulders. And feel any tension or stress in your shoulders. And take a deep breath in and release the tension. And move your attention down to your navel. Feeling your belly rise and fall with your breath. And as you breathe in, you can imagine the gentle warmth of the sun shining on the top of your head. And as you feel this gentle warmth, you realize this is the presence of spirit. Draw that gentle warmth of spirit down through the crown of your head, letting it move through your neck and shoulders as a gentle liquid warmth. Moving down through your chest and down to your navel. Breathing in. And feel that warmth reach down to your hips and cascading down to your knees. And feeling that gentle warmth moving down your legs and down to your toes. And as you breathe again, feel that energy moving out of your toes and anchoring you down to the earth, grounding you in this spiritual awareness and its gentle groundedness of the physical realms as well. Feel that centering and grounding, reaching all the way to the molten center of the earth. Take a few more breaths and notice how you feel. If you feel any stress or cold places in your mind or body, simply send it love and bring your attention back to your navel. And feel that gentle warmth of spirit and affirm quietly in your mind the following: I am a powerful spiritual being. My spirit is whole and perfect. I use my free will to choose wisely today. My soul is learning and growing on earth. My path is one of healing and wisdom. I now accept healing for my body, mind, and emotions. As you continue to breathe, memorize how this feels for you. Take another breath, memorizing that feeling. And hold this feeling as you return your attention back to this space, back to this room, and feeling that connection to spirit, to yourself, and to the earth for complete balance. And so it is. Amen. I know that we brought up some topics as we discussed a full session that might have triggered other topics. You feel free to email me or your own or another SRT teacher to ask questions that you may want more clarification on. Is there any other questions before we finish today? Do you feel like you can do a complete session easily following the procedure? Now, practicing is how you learn it, so just keep doing it. Even if you're slow reading through it at first, practicing always makes it better. And thank you all for coming and sharing. Thanks for the thumbs up and for sharing and for the good, positive comments. It's my pleasure to be here today. And next time I'll be having a guest that we'll be interviewing. And I look forward to seeing you in October. There may be other SRT practitioner meetings coming up in different languages as well as English, perhaps with another host. And I wanted to remind everyone in our closing that you can also receive help from the consulting line if you're wanting to get SRT for the first time or know someone who might want to use the SRT phone line, they can call 1-800-4SRT-WAY, W-A-Y. And I want to thank you again for your contribution. Think of all the ways you're blessing the planet. You're blessing yourself. You're blessing your community. And there's so many blessings that you're unaware of because you go about your day, you're prepping yourself to work, you're clearing things for people. But think about all of the clearing that's happening that you may not be aware of. That's simply the residue, if you want to call it that, of all the work that you're doing. So many blessings to all of you, and thanks for doing this amazing work. And I look forward to talking to more of you in the future as well and seeing your happy faces again. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.